Declan Duffy's dark past, the truth behind his notorious reputation. A character who emerged from the violent undercurrents of Northern Ireland's difficult history, Dean Waka Duffy is often regarded as one of the most complicated and controversial figures to emerge from that region. The instability, conflict, and ideological zeal that characterized the region for decades are reflected in his life, which is inextricably linked to the period of time when organized crime and paramilitary warfare were prevalent. Duffy's story exposes not just the social and political forces that influenced him, but also the circumstances that led to his ascent through the ranks of the Irish National Liberation Army, INLA. His story begins with a youth that was shaped by sectarian violence and continues through his climb through the ranks of the INLA. During the height of the Troubles, which was a period marked by heavy fighting between Unionist, Loyalist groups and nationalist Republican communities, Dean Duffy came of age. He was born in Armagh, Northern Ireland, in 1975. Fear, mistrust, and violence were pervasive characteristics of daily life for many people living in regions such as Armagh, where tensions were high and the presence of British military forces was normal. Under these circumstances, joining a paramilitary organization frequently appeared to be less of a choice and more of a calling, a way of protecting one's identity, community, and homeland. As a Republican group that was dedicated to the unity of Ireland, the Irish National Liberation Army, INLA, found eager recruits in young men like Duffy, who had grown up witnessing armed raids, bombings, and street fights become the norm. At the beginning of the 1990s, when Duffy was still a teenager, he made the decision to formally affiliate himself with the INLA membership. Despite the fact that it was initially established for political purposes, the organization was also actively involved in extremely violent criminal behavior. Structure and a sense of purpose were offered by the INLA for Duffy, who was already exhibiting signs of erratic behavior and being fearless previously. The epithet Waka, which would later become notorious in the criminal underworld as well as the paramilitary underground, was given to him as a result of his rapid rise to prominence as a daring and notoriously ruthless individual. During the middle of the 1990s, Duffy's role inside the INLA had become more prominent. He was no longer a mere youthful recruit. Rather, he became involved in activities that were becoming increasingly perilous. At that time, the Indian National Liberation Army, INLA, was engaged in a twin strategy, which consisted of maintaining a campaign of violence against British military and political objectives, while simultaneously engaging in criminal enterprises to make money for its operations. The more assignments that Duffy was given, the more powerful his position became within this framework. Despite the fact that the organization was beginning to disintegrate as a result of internal disputes and competition with competing groups such as the Provisional IRA, he was elevated due to his ruthlessness and seeming allegiance. A hostage situation that occurred at the Ballymount Industrial Estate in 1999 brought about a significant increase in Duffy's level of prominence. 6 people were taken hostage by him and other members of the INLA in what appeared to be a well-planned operation that involved both political and financial activities. When the police were called, one of Duffy's fellow militants, Patrick Campbell, was fatally stabbed. This turned the scenario into a potentially lethal situation. A turning point was reached as a result of this episode, which brought Duffy even farther into the public eye and reaffirmed his reputation as a dangerous operative. Following the signing of the Good Friday Agreement in 1998, which marked the beginning of a transition in the political landscape, numerous paramilitary organizations were encouraged to disarm and embrace peace. On the other hand, the shift toward peace did not result in a renunciation of violence for Duffy and other individuals who were similar to him. His engagement in illegal activity, on the other hand, became more extensive during the 2000s. As a result of the diminishing political influence of the INLA, the organization increasingly turned to drug trafficking and smuggling operations in order to preserve its dominance and retain its financial resources. During the course of these activities, Duffy emerged as a pivotal player, establishing connections with more extensive criminal networks and playing a significant part in the distribution of heroin and cocaine throughout Ireland. Duffy was also involved in a number of violent episodes that targeted rival gangs during this time period. These attacks targeted rival gangs, particularly those that were related to known underworld personalities in Dublin, an example of which is Freddie Thompson. In addition to further solidifying Duffy's reputation as a vicious enforcer, these attacks, which are believed to be part of a larger strategy to control the drug trade, were carried out. His illegal actions were no longer restricted to those of an ideological nature. Rather, he was now regarded as a high-ranking person within the organized crime network that existed in Ireland. One of the most serious accusations that was made against him was that he was involved in the murder of Sergeant Michael Newman in Derby, England in the year 1992. After a number of years, the murder remained unsolved. However, new evidence eventually established that Duffy was responsible for the killing. He was found guilty and given a sentence of 24 years in jail in the year 2010. A year earlier, in 2009, he had already entered a guilty plea to membership in the INLA, a charge that highlighted the ongoing danger he represented despite the fact that the organization's political significance was diminishing. The time that Duffy spent in prison did not significantly lessen his influence. It has been alleged that he was involved in many violent episodes within the prison system when he was detained. Additionally, he continued to retain relationships with past colleagues within the system. The terms of his license were violated in the year 2020, which resulted in his being sent back to prison. In spite of the fact that he was sent to detention, Duffy initiated a number of legal actions with the intention of gaining his freedom. He argued for his eligibility to undergo pre-release testing, which is an essential stage in the process of reintegrating into society, of challenging the decision of the prison service to not consider him for early release. The decision to take this action rekindled the debate in Northern Ireland regarding the difficulties associated with reintegrating former members of the paramilitary and the question of whether or not individuals such as Duffy, who straddle the line between political prisoner and career criminal, can ever be fully rehabilitated. Even now, Dean Waka Duffy continues to be a character that divides people. In the eyes of others, he is a remnant of a traumatic past, a reminder of the unsolved tensions that continue to haunt Northern Ireland's road toward peace because they have not been resolved. From the perspective of others, he is a symbol of the perils that arise when individuals who are firmly established in criminal and violent networks are allowed to evade full accountability. His life narrative encapsulates the moral uncertainty that existed throughout the Troubles, as well as the hazy boundaries that existed between ideological conviction, community defense, and personal benefits. The legacy of Duffy is difficult to place into words, both a product of a society that is fragmented and an architect of a significant portion of that society's pain. He is both. A struggle that has left scars on both individuals and communities is reflected in his story, which portrays the lingering shadows of that conflict. It is not yet known if he will eventually be able to achieve redemption or whether he will continue to be incarcerated by both the system and his own history. The name Dean Waka Duffy will, however, forever be engraved into the story of Northern Ireland's long and complicated journey through violence, crime, and reconciliation. This is something that can be said with absolute certainty. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.